Okay, so I understand that you guys have delved deeply into the science, and I know there are some people that would like to know the science hardcore. But for a lot of us who are just everyday people, we again are just trying to figure out what are we really saying. If I got in my car and you guys started smoking cigarettes, I would say you can't smoke in the car. And if my children were in the car, I would say you can't. And no matter what you said, I would stop the car and go, you can't smoke in the car with my kids. So I'm not sure what you're saying. Are you saying like, this isn't so great and, see what you could do? Or are you saying never have a cell phone to your head? Like, is it okay if it's on a speakerphone? Is it okay if it's in the car? If my son's texting? Like, I want to go into the nitty gritty because that's I'm already sold that EMFs are bad, and I'm sold that 5G is a nightmare. Other people might not be, but I am. So if I want to know what I can do tonight, what are the rules? If the cell phone, starting from my head, I hear that that's bad. From there, is it okay if it's on the table? Is it okay if it's in another room? Is it okay if it's just the Wi-Fi? Is it okay if my son's just streaming music in the back? Right now, I'm trying to have a nice relationship with my wife, and I tell her that we got to turn the Wi-Fi off, and the cell phone's got to be, and everyone, including her friends and family, is thinking I'm extreme and nutty, and I'm trying to decide if I'm extreme and nutty or if I'm responsible and healthy. So,
Steve, you already know the answer to that.
I don't know. I know not to hold it to my head, but I don't know.
No, I'm saying, are you extreme and nutty?
Yes.
Okay.
Not really. I am to society. I actually think I'm very rational and making good decisions.
Okay.
But I'm trying to understand if there's a cell phone on in the other room, is that a big deal? If someone's got this, if I'm on speakerphone, is that a big deal? If someone's texting, try to, if they're using the cordless, if they have Alexa on, how serious are we supposed to take? Is this cigarette smoke? Am I supposed to be all out against EMF? Or are you saying, as long as it's not to your head, give me more details about just me protecting myself every day, all day. Tell me all the details. My kids want to have wireless earbuds. I don't know if I'm being extreme or if I'm being rational. What do you think?
Can I say that, first, wireless earbuds are putting radiation into your head. There's also a way that one connects to the other, and then they connect to the phone, and you're getting even more radiation. I wish it were so easy in terms of the changes you make, but what we do know that is easy to know is that we do not know what a safe level is, and it should be as low as possible. And that doesn't mean that everyone just keeps the phone off the body. I wish it did. It would be simple if that were the answer. But at this point, we have an emergency situation because of the amount of devices. There is no faster growing environmental pollution than wireless right now. And it's not just the cell phones. It's the cell phones, the cell towers, the virtual assistants, all of these devices you brought in. And it's not going to be as easy in your home as maybe other issues that have come up, but it is doable, and you have to start somewhere. So getting everything wired that you can so that no one's complaining, I need to use the internet and I can't use the internet right now. I mean, using a wired computer does not mean no internet connection. A lot of people think Wi-Fi means internet. And if I say, turn the Wi-Fi off, they're like, what? No, And if someone told me you can't have the internet, I also would be like, wait, I've got to do my work, I've got to do my things. But I do it with a wire. Now, this does get confusing. And here, people came up to me, every talk I do, people come up to me and they say, how do I do that? And I would like to hand them one single thing that makes it easy, but actually, it's complicated depending on your carrier. It gets a little complicated. You actually have to spend some time figuring out first, where is your router? Some people say to me, what's that? You're gonna have to learn some things about this technology that we just have used, and It's going to take a little work, but it's worth it because it is about our children. And I'll say personally, in my house, we don't have any wireless devices, and it took time. I'd like to tell you that I heard about this, and the next day I fixed everything, and it actually took some time for me to learn how to fix some things. The first thing I did is stop using my cell phone and start using my phone, my cordless home phone, because I hadn't learned everything properly. And I used my cordless phone thinking this was better, but it's not. The decked phone is emitting radiation. It wasn't until I got a meter to measure what was in my house, and I started walking around my house, and I was like, this thing is radiating? And then so the first thing to do is get an inventory. Number one, what is emitting radiation in your home? You'll be amazed. And then for each thing, you say, what options do I have to hardwire it? And what changes can I make? So if you have, phones are actually easy. Getting the corded phone connection with the curly wire, not a cordless phone. But then you've got gaming systems. It really depends on the system. I would advocate, if you can, to get a meter so that you can start measuring devices. Because things can be hardwired. Also, your speaker. You might have a computer that has a mouse. Use a corded mouse. Use a corded, the thing you type on, the keypad. There's all these things you have in your home, and you can go by one and start swapping them out. But what we really need, and there's people who can't afford to do that. This is a luxury, and that's not right. So what we really need is people who have some time to petition these companies to make safer technology that's accessible and reasonable. So when I go to the store, because right now I can't even go to a store to buy most things. I have to search on the internet to find the wired speaker for my daughter's computer so that she can listen to music and not have it be with the Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. It should be like you walk in a store and you can buy it. So this is like a simple thing. Someone make a petition and go wild on it. Get yourself on camera talking about how important this is, and you'll wake people up. Put some pressures on the company. So do an inventory of your house and make those changes. You can certainly hire someone, if you choose to, a building biologist, to come and do measurements in your home and come up with some more complicated changes that you'll need to make, especially if you're near antennas. Be careful about shielding, because you could be bouncing something off another wall. So you always want to know your electromagnetic environment, what it is, where things are coming from, and if you make changes, you want to test after. But I believe that making everything wired that you can is the answer, and that takes a little time to do throughout your house, and you got to get buy-in from people. Sometimes you might not, but turning it off at night is a great start, actually. And I found so many people, and our family included, maybe some family members that were a little skeptical, did say, I sleep a lot better at night now that we dealt with that. And please check out all the papers that we have that have easy first steps on how to reduce exposure. I have a lot in the back. And that's what I would absolutely start with. And it can be done, and I don't think it's kooky at all. It's radiation. And a cell phone over here might be reduced, but you're still exposing yourself, especially if you're in a low signal. It's better to get a corded situation.
It's extreme not to consider this. It's abusive to your children, your family, and in my case, my coworkers. I have 200 coworkers. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars to protect them. They're sitting in front of computers. They're on a property. I brought physicists in. We put together machines we created at the Hippocrates Center to put scalar waves on the property. And these are measurable changes we've made. Thank God, friends of ours, German friends of ours, gave us phones that emit no EMF. And you can purchase these on the internet. And there's more than one company that does this. And wiring your home is by far the best, and yes, it's more expensive. It's outrageous. What used to be everyone, now you have to go and find these things like they're obscure. It was just 10 years ago we all had wires in our house.
Right.
This is incredibly important. And let me say, I cannot emphasize, look, I'm known as a health authority. You can eat perfect, you can exercise, you can have the greatest life in the world. You will get sick if you don't protect yourself from electromagnetic field radiation. This is radiation, as she just said. How many of you would jump in the middle of Chernobyl and hang out there for a week? Well, you're sticking cell phones and routers, you're in front of a computer 8 hours a day. You're living in a major city with cell towers on 4 corners of your home. I mean, this is outrageous, and we individually and as a society have to do something about this.
So in relation to what you were asking, there's no straight answer because everyone is in a unique situation. So like right now you've got a tablet with you and the microphone, and both of these are emitting. And then we're in a hotel with Wi-Fi. There are actually antennas and satellites on the roof of this building. And there are antennas on the buildings surrounding. And then there's stuff we don't know about. There are likely smart meters here. So we don't know about the combined effects and then the cumulative effects. So when did you start using wireless devices? When did, everyone's in a unique situation. And then your diet and your physical makeup, like my head is smaller than Brian's head. And so different waves are going to resonate with my size differently than the next person. And so everyone's different. And everyone's awareness is different. And what every one of us needs is different. Which is to say, we're on, at a significant level, we're on our own to figure out what's right. I do believe in unplugging as the first medicine and the continued medicine. There's another book I can recommend called Reset Your Child's Brain by Victoria Dunkley. She's an MD child psychiatrist. She had so many children coming to her with autism and psychosis, and she is in Los Angeles, and she couldn't tell what is going on. And so she said, until and unless the child does a 3-week electronic fast, I can't give a proper diagnosis. And all the parents said, no way, that's not possible to do a 3-week electronic fast. And she said, okay, you want another meltdown? And the parents said, no. And so they tried this 3-week electronic fast. And then within those 3 weeks, a lot of children's problems cleared up 100%. Her book again is Reset Your Child's Brain. She explains something very important for children. I'm not really directly answering your question, Steve, but this is very important. That is, interactive screen time is much more hazardous to children's brain development than passive TV.
Interesting.
And this is kind of counterintuitive, but one of my buddies, Jerry Mander, who wrote for Arguments for the Elimination of Television in 1978, he described, so if I'm a TV and I'm a train coming at you, you are emotionally going to react, like your fear is going to say, whoa, there's a train coming at me. If you're a child with a developing brain, seeing this train coming at you, the brain has to adjust to the thought, wait, that's not real. I'm feeling scared, that part's real, but the train isn't real. And that's very confusing for the child's brain as it is developing to do those thoughts at the same time. Okay, now put a mouse in the child's hand. So the train is coming at me, but because I've got a mouse here, I can manipulate the train so it crashes into Brian or to the building next to me or whatever, or to you. That's another adjustment for my brain to determine what's real. And most children cannot, even adults, it's just really confusing. But if that's happening when a child's brain is developing, you understand that interactive screen time, is much more hazardous than passive TV, which is dangerous enough. Okay, so this woman wrote, she's got all the studies that show this in her book, Reset Your Child's Brain, and she explains how to do the fast and then how to reintroduce electronics after the fast. So again, I believe in unplugging and fasting, and adults can do this too. And I will repeat to beware of shielding. Like a lot of people have shields on their phones, and the Environmental Working Group found that the shields on phones can actually increase exposure by 60%. There are so many things that we're not aware of. And things can get introduced that you don't know about when you've got the meters around. There are lots of frequencies that you may not be testing for. So unplug. That is the number one rule for me.
Can I add one quick thing, which is in addition to at home, and at work, at school is super critically important, because children spend the majority of their daytime in schools. And I talked about this in my talk as well, and you can also watch the webinar. I was referencing this with the San Francisco Teachers Union that we did, where we go more into depth. But the radiation exposure in schools is very intense, especially the intense peaks of all those access points that are placed. And where do you get 30 kids all on devices, which are all radiating, along with maybe they all have phones, maybe there's smartwatches, maybe there's iPods that are wireless, all of this in a contained space in just one room, because in all the other rooms there's also devices that are on, and it's pretty unprecedented, actually. And this is an area that I also think is so important that parents and teachers and administrators start looking at, because wireless should not be in schools. Schools should be wired. It can be done. In other countries, like Cyprus has removed the Wi-Fi from elementary schools. France has it off, only on for if a teacher needs to use it for a specific time, and they have wired systems. There's a lot of private schools that are removing the wireless. And it might take a while for public schools to catch up with that, but that's not good enough for our kids, because our kids are in school now, so something needs to be done now.
In China, in Shandong province, 40% of the children have myopia. And so last November, this province, which is large, instituted a rule. No cell phones in school, and no child can spend more than 15 minutes in one session with a computer, and no more than a total of 1 hour per day with electronics. That happened last November in Shandong province in China.
And we have a list, we have a web page which is on schools banning cell phones. We also have one on schools reducing Wi-Fi, but we have a list of other different schools and districts that are looking at that because of the impact, all the different impacts on kids, but especially it is not conducive to learning. And because getting outside with myopia, which is accelerating at a rapid pace, and the one thing that research shows over and over again, kids getting outside decreases their risk of myopia. Their eyes are looking at all different things. Rather than when you're just staring at a screen like this to the young developing eye, this is not healthy. And in schools especially, all of these devices are coming out with any medical guidelines, really health and safety guidelines on how to use technology safely. Not to mention that research shows that it doesn't support learning objectives.
Exactly.
All of this one-on-one device using tablets and devices in every classroom. I hope that people take some time to look more into this issue and take some action on it.
What is just being mentioned by these two experts, let's spend a minute to repeat the importance of this. So what you're suggesting is on your website. Could you give that to us?
Oh, it's ehtrust.org and Environmental Health Trust.
That she has schools that have done this. Those of you sitting in this room that purport, at least, that you're conscious and aware of the importance of this, it's your obligation to approach your child, your grandchild's school, and bring this about with examples. A few years ago, I reported a university, and I'm sorry, I forget the name, in Ohio, that they went off the wireless. Everyone listening around the world, I mean, the same thing. I'm putting a responsibility in your hands. The way things change is not sit and get riled up and get ulcers over this. You've got to approach the authorities. You do have control. And as you so well said earlier, you'd be surprised how few people it takes to stop bad legislation.